welcome to the Path You Take podcast, where the path you take is the path you make. Today, I'm joined by respected brother Alireza. Thank you so much for joining today. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming. I know what you do, at least a
Mhm.
little bit of it. We spoke a little bit. However, the viewers will be very curious to know exactly what is your profession, what is exactly you do, and how do you find yourself within that respective profession?
Okay. I am I'm an academic and I teach at UBC and I'm in chemical and biological engineering department. Um, my path to this career
Mhm.
started with obviously following undergraduate with graduate
Yeah.
school and then doing some technical research. But when I was doing graduate school, I got to be a teaching assistant for some of the courses in the
Hmm.
department. And I also got the opportunity to teach a couple of courses. And I found that I enjoy teaching a lot more than doing technical research.
Hmm.
Because when you teach, you can immediately see your impact on
Yeah.
students. You know, the light bulb the light bulb goes off above their head, and it feels really good to be able to help these young students learn,
Hmm.
grow, and uh, progress in their studies and career.
No, that's beautiful, mashallah. And how do you find yourself taking that choice, like education wise? Straight out of high school, did you graduate high school here or abroad or?
No, I did my high school and undergraduate back in
Mhm.
Iran, and then I came to Canada for my graduate school. So if you are interested in teaching at universities and colleges,
Yeah.
you need a master's degree or a PhD to be able to teach. However, the interesting thing is they don't teach you how to teach, but once you get a degree,
Yeah.
you're expected to know
Oh
how
my.
to teach. Um, all the technical courses that you take
Yeah.
are supposed to make you ready to teach, um, and understand and know the concepts in your field. And then the expectation is you have watched professors teaching you,
Yeah.
and then you should be able to at least
Find your
start
groove.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly, start to teach, and then once you do it over time, 1 year, 2 years, then you start to develop your own
Yeah.
way and methods of teaching and interacting with your students.
And I know I'm in university myself, so I know a professor goes a long way. Sometimes we have that one professor, oh my God, you have this, you're finished, you're cooked, we can't talk to you. But other times you have professors a little more easier. Where do you find yourself in that kind of teaching skill or grading skill? Do you find yourself more on like the harder side, the easier side? How did you kind of develop your pathway? Obviously, you said you were watching other professors, learning from them, but
Right.
let's say someone wants to become a professor themselves,
Hmm.
right? What are some things they could do that you wished you could have done beforehand just to gain that experience?
Right. To answer the first part of the
Yeah.
question, I
I'm asking,
think
I
we
know
should.
I'm like a shotgun, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I go rapid
We
fire. If
should.
I'm fast, slow me down. Too many copies today.
Um, you should ask my students
Yeah.
about whether I'm a nice
Yeah.
teacher, or one of those strict and more tougher professors. But I try to be as accommodating as I can,
Hmm.
and I try to look at students as a whole human being. They are not just a brain on a stick, in my opinion. So I,
Alhamdulillah.
I try.
You're passing all the tests right now, so you're fine.
Right. So I tend to take a holistic approach
Yeah.
when I teach. And this the second part of your question was, how do I develop my own way of
Yeah.
teaching, and what are the things that I wish I had done. um, when I started teaching career,
Yeah.
I started to get exposed to these different educational conferences and professional networks that exist, and you can join um, and receive, their communication about all these workshops about
Yeah.
teaching how to um, teach university courses, what are the modern and new techniques for teaching, what is active learning, and a lot of cool and important
Different
information
theories
that
for sure and stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I wish I had known about these opportunities before actually starting to teach, so that I could take these workshops and be more ready and hit the ground running when I started to teach. So, and I think it does not just apply to my career. In
Yeah.
any career, if you're interested and you know where you want to go, start to look for opportunities and networks and these professional networks that I'm sure are out there. You just need to be proactive and reach out and research and try to connect with the people in that field, and try to learn and build your CV to make a stronger case when you're applying for that job.
Yeah, so networking is a big thing. You're not the only person that's mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Various different guests have mentioned it as well. Um, they've also mentioned almost like that full circle moment
Mm-hmm.
where they networked with some persons, somewhere, some place in the past, and then numerous years later they end up working with that person or they become colleagues, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that sense of networking that you mentioned is something that the newer generation ahead of us kind of lacks, especially with the whole, AI, social media, TikTok, and all that type of things? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I definitely think it's one of the soft skills that I need to work on, and especially the younger
Hmm.
generation need to be um, need to focus on, and try to work that muscle and get it better and stronger in that skill. That's absolutely important in my opinion. Um, with the social media and the phone and
Yeah,
texting and instant messaging, you lose that ability to go and make personal connections with people.
hmm,
And so definitely you should push yourselves to go out there, send messages to people,
yeah,
but try to set up um, it, a time that you can go and sit down with them and talk to them, and make that personal connections with them. So again, going back to these professional networks that I
hmm,
mentioned, when you join, there are these events, so
yeah.
you go to them, and you should feel comfortable, approaching people
Exposing
and
yourself, talking
exposing
to
yourself,
people. Yeah,
talking to people. And it might be scary at the beginning, but that's okay. You're starting to learn
yeah.
how to network, and you shouldn't be afraid. Just keep doing it, and you're gonna get better. You know, as they say, practice
Makes
makes
perfect. Yeah,
perfect. So just do it.
just do it.
Just do it.
Not a sponsor.
Yes.
Not yet. Hope. So yeah, so rather than kind of looking at texting as a pathway of communication,
Mhm.
perhaps looking at it as a tool for communication,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then AI.
Mm-hmm.
You're also a professor, so I'll touch base on that side a little bit later.
Right. Yeah.
But AI, you see, this is at least what I've noticed with the
Mm-hmm.
newer generation. Newer generation, I mean like 13, 14, 15 years old.
Right.
I'm already really old. I'm past my prime. So I see AI just they're having conversations with
Mm-hmm.
GPT throughout the day.
Yeah.
Uh, I've seen crazy conversations happen in front of me with youngsters talking to AI. I'm like, I wish someone were to communicate like that with me
Mm-hmm.
and feel that comfortable to talk to me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you see that kind of lack of initiative to start a conversation with a human being rather with compared to AI? What
Mm-hmm.
have are you seeing that too?
Definitely,
Yeah,
I've witnessed some interesting conversation and interaction
yeah,
that
it's
my students have had
craziness.
with Gen AI and myself too.
Yeah,
I use it as a tool for sure. It's I think it's a we can you should look at it as a is it a two-edged sword? The
yeah,
expression
double-edged
that they
sword.
say,
Yeah.
double-edged sword. Yeah, you could use it to your advantage,
Hmm.
or you could use it to damage.
Self-destruction.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
injure yourself. I think it's important for us to learn how to best use Gen AIs
Hmm.
to improve our any skills that you want to improve. So, for example, you should not just rely on Gen AI to make conversation,
Yeah.
but you can use it to learn how to make conversation and then take that and actually use that in
Implement it. Yeah.
implement
Yeah.
and when you're talking to someone real. um, it makes a perfect body or partner for you to
Hmm.
practice.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, you should not entirely rely on Gen AI. And
No, I agree. It's.
I think it's a great tool to support you.
Hmm.
We need to teach our kids and school children how to use it in the best way possible. And by that, I mean, if you're trying to learn something, don't use Gen AI to as a shortcut
Yeah.
to get to the answer. Because if you skip the process of thinking and using your critical thinking skills,
You end up
you're not,
losing that skill.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're not going to develop that muscle, right? And so you should use the tool to help you develop that skill. Um, and we know Gen AI is not 100% correct all the time
Exactly.
either.
Yeah.
So if you don't develop that evaluative judgment or that critical thinking skills, you might just accept everything that the tool
And people are
throws
doing
at
it.
you.
Yeah. It's like
But no, you should,
diagnoses are coming out of AI, and all. So I
right.
swear to God, GPT said I had this,
Yeah.
this, this.
Yeah,
My doctor's lying,
yeah.
right? It's happening. Day in, day out, all the
Mhm.
time. And I bet the
Mhm.
doctors are going a little crazy too. Like, what's going on here?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
but I do agree with you. Like, there has to be a way where they kind of implement in the education stream.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use AI safely?
Mm-hmm.
How do you use it as a tool compared to as a
Mm-hmm.
shortcut?
Mm-hmm.
You could put a mathematical equation in. 9 out of 10 times it might come out right, it might
Mm-hmm.
come out wrong, but just like, how is that going to help you with your career in the long term,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
With that being
In
said, what are your kind of experiences with AI as a professor? I'm
mm-hmm.
curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see the other side
Right.
of the book, the other perspective. Because I'm a university student. Have I
Mm-hmm.
used AI before? Yes. Have I used
Mm-hmm.
it to complete assignments? No. Sometimes hey, does this fit the syllabus? Does this fit the criteria for
Mm-hmm.
this assignment? Is there something that I missed? Um, I use it. I think it's a great tool. Just kind of make sure, like, does this fit what the assignment's asking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but for you, like, what are your experiences as a professor, seeing students using AI, catch maybe some students, I don't know.
That's a big concern now
Yeah,
at the university level, and I'm gonna give a tip to your viewers.
yeah,
It's it's usually in the reference sections that you can detect whether Gen AI is used or not because it hallucinates.
mhm,
And some of those references do not exist. If you actually go and search them, they look very legit.
yeah.
It's a book and there's the author,
Case study, everything, right?
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you search for them, they do not exist. So um, if you're using ChatGPT and Gen AI, make sure you check the
Double check your
references. Yeah.
references.
Again, going back to that
Yeah,
evaluative judgment, right? You should not trust everything that the
exactly. Yeah.
tool throws at you. In terms of how I use it, I think different professors may use it in different ways,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
the way that I have been using Gen AI is firstly for writing and polishing my writing, for example. when I prepare a proposal, I
Yeah.
have my draft, the first draft. I have all the main items that I want to include in there.
Yeah.
When I write a first draft, and I ask the tool to polish and edit that for me. And I am I'm quite happy with what it does, but I don't agree with every changes that the
Yeah.
model does for me. And so again, I take that and I modify it, um and then I submit the work
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's super helpful in terms of your productivity. It increases your productivity significantly. I have to spend maybe a day or so to really sit down and meticulously edit the first draft.
Yeah.
But when you have this tool at your fingertip,
Yeah.
that's 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 really, really super useful. I I also use the tool again to rewrite some of the exam questions just to make sure that it's more clear to students. There's no ambiguity in it, so
Yeah.
that students are not confused by the language. It's really the concept that being tested in that question. The other way that I have used it is, how do you modify the type of the questions that you're asking?
Yeah.
One of the initiatives that we are doing in our department is moving away a little bit from very well defined end of chapter type of problems, because those are not the kind of problems that the students are going to see in real world.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So we want to prepare students to ask questions that are more real world like. They are context rich in terms of how they connect to their field of study.
Yeah.
um, and so I have been using these tools to help me rework the questions, turn them into the kind of questions that we refer to as troubleshooting questions. For example, if I am expecting a particular stream with a particular composition out of this processing unit, but I'm not getting that purity that is expected. With your knowledge, can you give me 3 reasons as to why this might be happening?
Critical thinking too.
Critical
Yeah.
thinking, exactly. And can you suggest some corrective action to alleviate the issue, right? So in that respect, it's been quite helpful. And I'm also working on developing a chatbot for technical courses, where students can use as a resource in my courses.
Mhm.
But the way that we design that chatbot is, we want it to act like a professor or a teaching assistant, meaning that when the students come to us and ask questions, we don't directly give them the answer. We try to ask them guiding questions.
Yeah.
Right, so that they can think and try to figure out the answer. So this tool that we are developing is going to work in that style, Socratic style. So it's going to conversate with the student and ask guiding questions so that they develop their
That's all. Rather than
critical
spoon feeding
thinking.
it, it's
Exactly. Yeah.
nudge them a little bit in the right direction.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, as a professor, I could see like you're not fully against AI. Use it as a tool,
Yeah.
but there's obviously the other side of things as well. How does your perspective compare to like some of your peers or other professors within that university realm?
Mhm.
Example, I have different professors
Mhm.
throughout different semesters. Some professors are like totally fine with AI, just use it, don't abuse it. Others are like, do not touch it,
Mhm.
do not look at it, do not read it, do not type it. Why? Because it's taking away, jobs from the workforce, yeah, animation, this, that, I understand to a certain
Right.
degree, but I'm like, okay, if I could use it as a tool,
Mhm.
to speed run some of my work, to make sure my work is on point, to polish some things here and there, I don't see where the harm is. But you could also understand the other side of things too, right? Like AI gives so much, but takes back just as much.
Absolutely.
So where can we, like, what are the different perspectives that you've seen, at least in that kind of realm? Have you seen different people just like fully like, don't touch it, don't look at it,
Oh yeah,
don't,
absolutely. So there are professors with different um, pedagogical approach
yeah,
to the way that they teach. Some, like you said, embrace using these tools. Some don't like to touch it at all.
yes,
So it's a spectrum, and but I'm on the side of this spectrum that is supportive of using the tool, responsible use
yeah,
of these tools. Because I think it's it's super helpful in increasing your productivity if you know how to use it well. And I think it's something that, whether we like it or not, it's it's going to be a tool that's available to students,
yeah.
to the employees.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going
Yeah,
anywhere, right? And even if you say don't use it, policing that is not easy. How can you make sure that the students aren't actually using it?
yeah,
Because again, Gen AI tools are not that accurate in detecting whether a something that students have submitted is actually made by Gen AI or is their
with
own
that being
work.
said, like I know someone who actually did an assignment and it came out AI used, and he had his whole thing. He had to go through the dean and all that type of stuff, prove his work. He wrote it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, when you do Google Docs, it timestamps all your work. He
Yeah.
showed that, so it proved it, but
There we go.
it got flagged for 100% AI, right? So it's how do
Yeah.
you really prove something is AI or not?
Exactly.
It's hard to
Yeah.
tell.
Extremely hard to tell. Yeah. And so the analogy that I like to think is, you might have also heard about it, the calculators, right?
Yeah.
When they came out, I'm sure some math teachers and professors went crazy saying that, oh,
Blasphemy, don't touch that.
yeah, don't touch that,
Haram, right? Yeah.
But eventually, you start to use it because it allows you to do some more complicated calculations.
Yeah.
Increases your productivity again, right? Having said that, that doesn't mean you should not learn the basics of mathematics. Because if you don't learn how to do simple math by hand, how are you going to trust the calculator? Do you have the ability to make sure that the answers are correct? Can you do some of those calculations
Yeah.
quickly in your head to make sure, at least you are in the
Right realm of
expected
things,
range?
yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't know the math, can you actually use the calculator? You need to learn the basics for
Yeah.
sure, right? But these tools are going to allow you to do things at a higher level, deal with problems that are a lot more complex.
So we touched base on AI and critical thinking. Now, I just want to get some of your input, perhaps even your guidance when it comes to like, how do we help train our minds in this modern day and age right now to help us become better critical thinkers, whether it's myself asking, but hopefully it's more the youngsters asking. Of course, I will benefit from this as well. Hopefully you can't, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Hopefully I'm not that old, but I can implement that as well. But some of your guidance, right? So how do I train the mind? I train my body all the time. I go to the gym.
Right.
Not all the time. Past month and a half, I'm not gonna lie. But how do I train my mind as much as I train my body? How do I get into that kind of realm and hopefully, not rely on GPT too much if I were a younger chap in high school or getting into university.
Right. So so you said you work on your physical health.
Yeah.
How do you plan for that? How do you make a plan
That's a great question.
to grow your muscles and get it stronger?
You get push day, pull day, leg day, rest day.
Right. You develop a plan, right? So you think about what are the things that you want to improve.
Yeah.
So if critical thinking is something that you would want to improve, then you would search and look for the exercises, the things that you need to do
Yeah.
in order to work that muscle, right? So that you get it stronger. And I think these are very abstract construct. Critical
Yeah.
thinking, it means different things to different people. There
Of
are
course.
different
Yeah.
aspects of critical thinking, so you would have to look into what suits your needs the best, and then try to develop your skills in that respect, in that realm. um, so if it's in my field, chemical engineering, right, undergraduate level students come to me and ask questions. One thing that I recommend them is, when you're looking at extra examples and questions, don't just look at the answer right away, because that's going to ruin your critical thinking abilities, right? When you look at it, it all makes sense, right? Oh yeah, I can do that, you know. But when you actually genuinely try to do it, when you need those connections in your brain to fire,
Yeah.
if you don't have them, if you haven't developed them, it's going to be super hard, right? You don't get as strong by watching someone else lifting the weights.
Tried it. Never works. It never works. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So you need to go through that exercise,
Mhm.
that pain, in order to get us stronger and develop that skill. So again, like I said, depends on which aspect of critical thinking you're
Mhm.
trying to improve. You need to search and figure out what are the things that you need to do, what are the exercises that you need to practice to improve that
Perhaps
skill.
like reading
Do
books more often, that
read
type of. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, for sure. um, Reading the textbook, if you're at university these days, I don't see many students purchasing the textbook. um, they may not even know what textbook is. So
Yeah.
reading books, absolutely. In this and day and age, you sit down behind the screen and you scroll,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you raise your head and you realize, oh, it's been an hour,
It's
two
12 a.m.
hours.
already, and
I
I've just
know,
been doom
yes,
scrolling on
yeah,
TikTok.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So you don't realize how
Yep.
much time you lose by
And
just
and with
scrolling.
that being said, then in the other side of it, they have them. They're saying they don't have time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very busy. I don't have time. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. I don't have
Right.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's look at your screen time, right? Let's see the
Absolutely.
TikTok
Right.
screen time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So if
that's
you if
horrible.
you if you want to be successful and achieve something
Yeah.
really meaningful and great, you really need to have a plan for your day, and you need to monitor how much time you're spending during your day. Um, I don't mean this has to be exact to the minute and you have to act like a robot,
Yeah.
but you need to have a way to monitor what you're doing, how you're spending your time. And just like going into the gym, if you want bigger muscle, if you want to grow, you must experience that pain.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pain. Expect it to be painful. Expect it to be not frictionless. Um, what I've what I've seen is these days, kids especially go behind the screen. They play these games. It's very fast paced, right? And very stimulating. And as soon as they put it down, they get bored.
I pick it up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick it up again.
So you need to have a limit on how much you play and realize that real life is different.
Yeah.
Real life is a lot slower. If you want to achieve something great,
Takes time.
it's going to take time. It is going to be painful, and you need to repeat sometimes the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's going to be boring. Yes, but that's part of the process. Right?
So having a certain level of self-honesty as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, be honest with yourself. Do you think you're doing the right thing? Is staying on TikTok for an hour
right.
justified.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's your work. If it is, maybe it is justified. But if you're
Right.
just in high school or university, maybe you do have more time than you think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. And I like the way you linked it to the gym as well. You got me more hyped for tomorrow's session. Inshallah. Tomorrow's leg day, so make me dua. Uh, One last thing before I let you guys, I want to touch base on. As you said, you completed high school in Iran,
Mm-hmm.
and you also did your undergraduate there as well, correct?
Correct.
How did you find the level of difficulty transitioning from, your different society, different
Mm-hmm.
culture, different country, different kind of the way they teach as well?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that difficult, like transitioning into a whole new kind of way of doing things or different type of teaching styles, learning, and like what was your experience?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So it felt very different. I have a funny story to tell. I remember the first class that I attended at
Yeah.
UBC. When the professor entered the room, I had a couple of friends that we got admitted to UBC together, but we stood up as the professor entered the room because that's what you do in
Out of
Iran,
respect,
right?
yeah.
Out of respect. But it was totally different, right? And the professor said, you don't need to do that. You just
Yeah.
stay seated. It's fine. Um, so you need to have some degree of flexibility in terms of learning the new culture and
Yeah.
being open to learn the um, good side of any culture. There are good side and bad side,
Anywhere you go in the world, yeah.
anywhere you go around the world. But I'm open to learn the good things that I see in a society and in a culture. Um, at the beginning, the language was, communicating in English was hard because I never was in a
Yeah.
English speaking environment. But um, you you need to constantly remind yourself. I had to constantly remind myself about why I am here and what I'm trying to achieve,
Yeah.
so that when these challenges arise, I can keep myself motivated and keep pushing and keep moving forward. Um, and try to adjust and learn on the go, just to um, just to achieve the goal that you have in mind. Again, having that plan, having that ultimate goal, or at least the direction that you want
Yeah.
to move towards, having that at the back of your mind is super important and helpful when these challenges arise. um what else was different?
Was it just as challenging as you thought it would be, or even more challenging? That's something I'm curious about.
Mhm.
Coming from Iran and then going to UBC, you obviously had in your head how it's going to go or how
Mhm.
challenging and how hard you're supposed to work. But when it came to the reality of things,
Yeah,
was it just as challenging, less
I
challenging, or
would
more
say it's been more
more
challenging,
challenging? Yeah.
yeah. And especially adjusting from
Hmm.
undergraduate level to a graduate level. I always say, the easiest thing and work in the world that you can do is going to a class. The professor tells you, here is the book that we're going to study, and there's going to be an exam at the end that you're going to write.
Yeah.
That's the most straightforward and the
Expectations and everything. Yeah.
exactly. But when you go to graduate school, it's it's like it's not very structured. Doing technical research is very different. My supervisor used to tell me that you have to find the problem yourself. You have to find the solution yourself. I'm not training a technician here. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So I had to read a lot of papers
Hmm.
and try to figure out what the knowledge gap is, and try to come up with a plausible research question, and then plan how to answer that question and go ahead and implement the experiments, collect the results, and exploring the unexplored area,
Yeah.
you know, just going into a room that's dark, not a room, a house that is dark, and then slowly you move to different rooms, you try to turn on the lights and then figure out how does how the house looks like, and you know, try to find your way
You got me
around.
very excited for graduate school.
Yeah.
I'm
Of
so hyped
course.
right now. Inshallah khair. No, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way that you develop your
Yeah.
critical thinking skills and research skills,
You're
right?
going to be a
That's the point.
professional, so you got to be able to act
Exactly.
like a
Yes.
professional and think like a
Yeah.
professional. So
And
I agree. Yeah.
the higher the goal is, the harder the path
The darker the house is
would
going to
be.
be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that I made you very excited
No,
about
I'm super
going to
hyped. I'm very
graduate school.
stoked. Hopefully all the lights work in that house I enter, inshallah.
Sometimes they don't work.
Sometimes they don't work and you got to figure out how to make it work, right?
Exactly.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I really did appreciate your time here, and you know, I've learned a lot and a lot of insight, especially, you know, as a university student, seeing the other side of things. You know, that's very it just opens my eyes to the different side of things, of course. Whenever we let a guest off, we always ask them one last question, right? And the question is, it's a very difficult one. I hope you're ready for it. One piece of advice that you would leave our guests with. So it could be any type of piece of advice you got throughout the years or something you've experienced, just something just leave the guests with that they kind of just hold on to.
Okay. I would mention a couple of things perhaps. One is read books.
Yeah.
Read books. You know, there are a million different books out there. There's so much wisdom and knowledge out there. If you have any questions, search for a proper book that you can read.
Not a comic book, an actual book.
Exactly. Yes. So
yeah.
and my recommendation there is 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. So if you're interested to read a book, go ahead and give it a read. That's by Sean Covey. That's one. The other thing is my tagline, I would say, or my motto when I finish my courses.
That's exciting. Let's hear it.
Right. So I always say, stay curious, keep learning, and don't forget to smile.
I couldn't end it off any way better than that. You should have your own YouTube channel at this point. That's perfect. Again, thank you so much for coming on, and inshallah the viewers learn as much as I have, and inshallah excited, or just as excited and hyped and stoked that I am to enter graduate school hopefully in the near future, inshallah, and open up all the lights and become a critical thinker. I hope to have you soon again. We could maybe touch base on different parts that we didn't touch base on today, and, you know, hopefully widen our perspective of things, inshallah. Thank you again, everyone, for joining in today, and hope to see you again in another 2 weeks for our next episode. And thank you again, brother, for your time.
Of course.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.